Okay, so let me repeat. I will share with you 3 files. First thing will be the setting up, which I will show you step by step. So everything, the setting up that I'm showing during this session is basically already here. Okay, you can basically refer, but this is based on project 2010. So basically it's the same thing anyway. Okay, that will be the first file. And then the second file, steps. Okay, this is PDF. Okay, so what we are going to do is basically to try to develop a project scheduling using Microsoft Project. Previously, if we are getting some kind of information like this, for instance, list of activity and then duration, predecessor, and then for sure we can draw manually. And at the end of the day, we are going to get some information with regard to project duration, critical path, and etc. etc. Okay, now we are trying to input those things into the Microsoft project and see how things will turn up. And the step by step basically is being written here. It is based on the old version of the Microsoft project, but it is okay. You need to basically listen to me. I'm using 2016 version. If you have 2019, it will be almost the same. Okay, not much differences. Okay, that will be the second file. And then the third file. This is the most important file, the data. Okay, the data that you are going to input later on is basically being provided. Okay, first thing first, column A is basically list of task name. So I already prepared all the tasks. We do have how many tasks item there, and some of the things are being colored, yellow, gray. There are reasons for that. Okay, later on I will show you. And then column B will be duration in days. Microsoft project we can input in, I think in minutes, hours, days, week, and month, and we can mix and match the unit inside one project. But as not to get confused, you can use just simply one kind of unit, okay? Even though we can mix and match, well, it's better to use standard, whatever unit that you wish. And then predecessor. You notice that our predecessor look a little bit different. Normally, the one that we learn in class is basically, let's say we do have item uh, what we call task A, B, C, and the predecessor will be linked to A, B, C, something like that. But now we do have numbering. Why we do have numbering? Because Microsoft Project do not recognize the task by its name, by the name. Microsoft Project, similarly like Primavera also, they only recognize according to the ID of the task. The ID of the task will be automatically generated in the Microsoft project. Okay, later on you will notice all the numbering is basically refer to the task name. Start from 1 until the end of the task. And then resources. Okay, previously in the first class, we learned how to develop a project using task name and duration and predecessor. We do not input what we call resources. Okay, we do learn in what we call labor resource management. We do input a labor, and then at the end of the day, we are getting what we call tabulation of resources according to duration of the project. We want to know what could be the maximum number of people on certain day, etc., so that we can better manage our resources. So now we are trying to input resources. This is example of resources that I already prepared, and you notice that the square bracket indicate a number of resources. For instance, activity in row number 5, dumper, square bracket 4, meaning to say 4 unit of dumper, excavator without any bracket, meaning to say it is one excavator, roller, earthwork. Earthwork is basically material. That will be the unit. So these are the information that we need to prepare first. I would say the most, the one of the difficult thing in coming up with developing a project is basically to come up with all this information. We need to get all the information to calculate the duration, to figure out what could be the best resources, etc., etc. And when you choose the wrong resources, even though you can execute the work maybe faster, but then the cost might be very high. So still, there is no point of doing so because you are not going to get a lot of profit. Okay, so it must be a balance. Okay, so that is the resources name which I already um, put in this format. Actually, this format is very similar to the Microsoft project format because what we are going to do, we are going to do the faster way. We are just simply going to copy and paste the information into our Microsoft project. Well, Microsoft project can read from Excel. We can import from Excel actually. Okay, but we do the easy way. Okay, as not to get confused. Then second sheet here, resource sheet. Here. If you notice on the previous resource name, okay, resource name is the one that you input into the main what we call Microsoft available column there. But we do not directly input the resource name without first providing the list of resources into the resource sheet. This is what the resource sheet looks like, exactly the same as in Microsoft project. Later on, we are going to copy and paste the coding. If you notice, I just classify them according to color. Remember, resources can be man. So the yellow one would be man. The blue one would be the list of all the machinery. And then the third one would be the material. And in terms of the type, for the man and machine, we can use the type in terms of work. But then if it is material, then we need to change the unit into the material. So this thing will be in the Microsoft project. The selection is there, but I'm just preparing the data. Okay. And then material, column C, when you have material, it is better to put some kind of what we call unit labeling, cubic meter, etc. So that when you input a rate, certain rate, then basically we know that this rate is for the square meter or meter run or cubic meter for the material. Okay. And then the initial is automatically will be generated in the Microsoft project according to the first initial of the resource name, but we can change that. If, for instance, later on, maybe in our reporting, we need to print out so many resources with different prefix. For instance, you can basically change the prefix. Group is basically labor, non-labor, and material automatically will be identified with the what we call resource name, and then maximum unit F. This is example of. In other words, we can refer to the peak unit. Peak unit meaning to say the puncak maximum unit of resources that we are going to use during the duration of the project, maximum. Okay. If, for instance, later on we provide insufficient number of material, whereas our activity might require more than that, then the computer will show over allocated resources that we call it redman. Okay, we are going to see those things later on. Standard rate. Okay, we can change this standard rate into hourly, days, etc., etc. But I do not want to change anything, just by default. If you notice here in standard rate, we can basically come up into a very specific unit standard rate for man, machine, and material. But then if you do that, most of the time, if you input the item according to specific unit rate, all the items here do have unit rate, including the material, man and machine. Well, trust me, you are going to end up your cost, the total cost will be more than what in the tender or contract documents. Normally, what we put is basically to be equivalent to the contract document so that the client can trace the activity in accordance to the BQ and etc. Why? Because the issue is that when you input into the contract document, you input according to unit rate of material. And unit rate of material is already inclusive of man, machine, and profit. So my advice, there could be many ways of inputting the cost. This is one of the way, because since we are learning, so why don't we just try using the unit rate, and then we come up with the full list of resources. We attach the resources, and then later on, we do have this kind of unit rate, which I refer to basically this one. Okay, unit rate material, inclusive of man, machine, and profit. Let's say that is the item that we want to input. So automatically, later on, in the next page of my Excel here, this is an example of you need to know the quantity. Where do you get the quantity? Is from the BQ. Let's assume you already have this quantity. That's why you need to have the unit, so that you know earthwork is being measured by cubic meter, 2000 cubic meter for this activity. Okay. And then all the activity, it looks like they do have unit, except for certain activity which doesn't have a unit. And when there is a no unit, for instance, that could be a lump sum pay. That could be the lump sum. And you notice in column E here. Okay, column E here. Okay, column E. Column E, the one that I colored yellow, mean lump sum. There are certain activity which basically being paid lump sum. Example, survey, backfilling, and then site cleaning. That is the example. Okay, if we do have this kind of variation of information, in fact, some of the cost is going to be generated using unit rate, and some is going to be input using lump sum. Okay, so how do we do that into Microsoft project? So this is what we are going to do. Okay, so you need this information. Okay, this is 5 task list will be provided to you. Okay, what you need to do later on, Microsoft project exercise, I will give I will give basic information so that you will not get confused. Okay, but what you are going to do is very similar to what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, now let me open. Okay, I'm already opening my Microsoft project. It doesn't matter what version you are using, even though you can use old version. Old version meaning to say 2010, even 2007, you can still use. But 207, for instance, it doesn't have a lot of graphic. So you need to scroll down and find where should be the menu. Okay, you should get the same answer anyway. Okay. Can you see my Microsoft project screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, okay, good. Sometimes it doesn't open up. All right. So first thing first, when you open up a Microsoft project, this is what you are going to see, similar to many Office document, Word, Excel, whatever. We are quite familiar. And before we go into opening up a blank project, let me click on template. I click on more template here. You know what? The Microsoft project is given a some of the standard template. If, for instance, you do not know how to start, okay, you can basically click on template, and then let's try which one is basically related to uh, construction. We do have what we call uh, here commercial construction. I think we do have residential construction as well, but residential construction basically belong to the method being used in US, but they are very much the same anyway. Okay, so if you look at the view there, then you know what are the things to be input. You just basically make some changes, then that could be yours. Okay. All right. So let me close this thing back. Okay. Now to start our work. So what we are going to do now is basically to develop a scheduling using Microsoft project based on the data that we already prepared. So click on blank project. Okay. So this is the interface that you are going to see. And you notice that perhaps when you first open yours, at the left-hand side of the screen here, you might not have these kind of item as mine. So don't worry. Perhaps yours would be, you just basically drag the mouse until the left-hand side there somewhere, and then you right-click. You will notice the selection of item there, where the left hand side of the what we call a quick access menu is basically is in the view bar. If I close this thing, then this is what you are going to see in yours the first time you open up. Okay, because if for instance you have not been using this thing and you just basically purchase from Lazada or Shopee, whatever, and then you might notice this and you were trying to figure out where is basically the quick access menu. The menu is basically is everywhere on the top here, but sometimes it is very difficult to find. So the best way is basically click the mouse and click the view bar. So the quick access menu will be appearing here, because sometimes we need to go back between Gantt chart, network diagram, and then we are going to look at what we call a resource graph later on, and a few items. Okay, then another quick access menu you can find when you move your cursor here on the right hand side before the zoom slider here. You can see a few things. Resource sheet, then what is this team planner, and then what is this test usage, and then Gantt chart. Most of the time we are going to use resource sheet later on, so you can just basically click here instead of trying to find it somewhere here. They are here. All right, so that is the quick access menu. And then how about the interface? Okay, when you look at this thing, there is a slider in between here. You can drag to the right and to the left. The left side here, this is what we call the spreadsheet area. Very similar to the one that in Excel. That's why it is compatible to Excel. And you can add more columns. You can right click, you can add, you right click, and then you can select. There are so many things, so many columns that you can let the Microsoft to appear. Okay, or even you can hide the column, just like Excel also. So don't worry if you see only a few information or some, if for instance you receive Microsoft project file from your friend or whatever, you might notice the column might look different. Well, because they hide certain column. Okay, if you want to make the column appear, you just simply right click and then insert column. So that will be the selection of the column. Okay. for instance. All right, now, okay, let me click, drag the slider. Okay, on the right here, right hand side here, after the slider is basically the Gantt chart area. If you notice, they are gray colored. Gray colored indicate Saturday and Sunday, because as a default, Microsoft project, because it was based in US, so Saturday and Sunday is a public holiday and it's considered as off day. So if, for instance, you decide your project is going to be working 6 days per week, let's say from Monday until Saturday, so you need to basically change the working calendar accordingly. So that is what I call setting up. The first thing that we must do before we even start. Okay. And on top of this Gantt chart area, this is what we call time scale area, which if you double click here, see the time scale area, we call it top tier, middle tier, bottom tier, is basically referring to this all kind of labeling here. You can change to whatever thing that you like. Okay, later on when we do our example, we can try to click on time scale. Okay, if you want not using, if you want date to be appear, if you want, for instance, day 1, day 2, day 3, yeah, everything can be done. If you want the unit to be changed to weekly, week 1, week 2, you can do that. Okay, so and then on top of this Microsoft project window here, you notice when you click file, okay, there will be the menu according to the file submenu, and then the tasks. Okay, the horizontal one here is all related to tasks. They are being grouped together. Resources, all related to resources, and including the resource labeling. Later on, we are going to click some of the button here. Then report, you can click certain report, and then later on you can print as well. And then project consists of many information that we are going to use some of the item here. For instance, change working time, project information, set baseline, update project, a few things. View is the one that you want to we can basically sort according to critical path. We can filter, we can sort according to the priority, many things. Okay, and then format. Okay, if you do not like the coloring, you can change. Okay, and then you notice there is a box of critical path, critical tasks, slack meaning to say float, late tasks, and then a few items that we are going to click. Well, in order to understand Microsoft project, if you are really into to become a planner, a scheduler, really a serious one, you need to go for courses. Okay, the one that we show here is just basic knowledge, just to complete our what we call syllabus. In terms of, we do have manual scheduling, and then now we do have some kind of software scheduling, so you can see the differences, and then perhaps later on you can appreciate that you can get the information much faster by inputting the information into the software. Okay, but if you want to go into the professional, you need to go for courses. And you know what, out there they even many places that just simply teach you about how to use the software alone, not going into managing project using Microsoft project. Not yet. It is like when you learn Microsoft Word, Excel, and then PowerPoint. That is kind of course. And normally the course center will use books from Microsoft Press, step by step. It's a very thick book, consists of many chapters, and normally the course could be running for 3 to 4 days. And nowadays the cost could be around 8 to 1,000 ringgit per day. But I tell you, even if after you went through the course, you might not be able to use much, because there is another type of course that you need to go. Managing project using Microsoft Project. That is the real one, normally being conducted by people who are well versed about project. They could be project manager before, etc., etc. And they are normally being divided into basic, intermediate, and advanced courses. And normally in advanced courses, you are going to learn about earned value and delay analysis a little bit. Even delay analysis is a course by itself. Okay, so maybe they will touch a little bit. All right, so that is the extent of the knowledge, even for this software alone. Okay, so never mind. So let's try to use this software and see how. And before we go, actually, when you look at this column, the column area here, okay, let me drag this one. There are not many information that you need to input actually. You just need to input task name column, duration, start and finish will be automatically generated according to the duration that we specify and according to the project start date. Let's say we start date the project on first kita kata first January ke whatever date, then the start mean the early start and finish mean the early finish. The late start and late finish we can look at different column. We can basically input a column later on, and then predecessor. Predecessor is similar. Is the one that we need to input information, and then resource name. So not many. 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So 4 column, but resource name, as I mentioned, you are not going to input this thing directly into here. We need to input the information into the resource sheet first. Resource sheet mean a piece of paper where you put all the data there. Then only you link between the resource sheet paper and this column. Then only the computer would be able to relate. Otherwise, it looks like it's just a database. Okay, it's just like a library where you keep all the information in one place. If you do not link them into the right activity, then nothing will happen. Okay. Then, so I already mentioned 4. Resource sheet will be 5. And then another one is we need to organize our project. Remember, organize means some of the activity will be classified according to the type of work. For instance, in construction, we develop WBS. So the WBS start from, for instance, site preparation work consists of so many activities. Consists of site clearing, cut and fill, earthwork, etc., etc., including demolition work. So that can be grouped under site preparation. So when you develop into the chart, so you can see the connection between one activity and another activity in a group. Then how do you do that inside Microsoft Project? That is what we call organize. Okay, so all in all, I would say you need to do around 5 things in terms of input column is only 4 plus resource name would be 5, but then another one is not inputting anything, just basically organize. Okay, so that would be, it looks easy. So that's why when we already have all the information, inputting data into the Microsoft project is very easy. It will take maybe 1 hour. Later on, when you try at home, trust me, you will complete within 1 hour only, because now I need to explain many things. All right. So, okay. First thing first, before we even start putting all the information into our column here, we need to do the setting up. Okay, first thing in the setting up, and then second thing would be we identify the project start date, and then the third thing would be change working time. Or change working time can be done much earlier than project start. It doesn't matter. So those are the early things that we need to do. Okay, now let's start with first thing first. Okay, why don't we save as this project into a specific name? Okay, so you need to save this project into a specific name because you are going to submit to my email. Okay, later on I will send another write-up about what to do with the Microsoft project exercise, but it's not going to be due today. It will be due similar with your assignment anyway. Okay, let's put into specific file. Okay, let me put it here. Okay. Okay, let me put into this folder, and I name it. So you will name your file according to your name. Let me name according to mine. Okay. Actually, the project real name is basically infra work. Okay, just basic infra work. Okay, so I basically click save. All right. If you notice at the top there, because it is at the top there, the file name is already changed from project 1 into Rahim. So now we already have a specific project file name. Okay, now click on file again. You notice at the end of the here button here menu, there is an option. There is an option button. So we need to do the setting up according to this option. Okay, so that's why when you go for courses, for instance, or even you refer to Microsoft Project textbook, and then basically they a lengthy explanation of what are these things all about. So, but for now, you just basically follow what I'm doing. This is just basic setting up. First thing first, general. We do not want to do anything with general because that is just color, etc., etc. Okay. Then click on display. Okay, now we are going to change something on menu display. You notice that the currency. Currency we want to change into Malaysian ringgit. Otherwise, it keeps showing the USD. So try to find Malaysian ringgit, MYR here. Okay. So the placement RM is there. That is the correct way. Sometimes the symbol, I'm not really sure. When you open up your computer, the symbol just simply show R. R could be very confusing. Rupee, rupiah, etc. Rial also can. So you just simply add R, M there. You can type. Certain thing you can type, certain thing is basically automatically default. Okay. And then I do not click anything on here. This is already there. So perhaps entry bar. Maybe yours doesn't have the entry bar. Click there. You might want to click. What is entry bar? Entry bar is similar to the one on top of this what we call Microsoft project here. When you want to click on certain row, it will appear, especially when you want to edit. Otherwise, it will not be showing there. That is what entry bar. Okay, that's it for display. That is all you need to do. I just basically change one thing. Malaysian ringgit decimal, you can choose whatever decimal that you want and make sure it is RM. You might want to click entry bar. Okay, so we are done with display. Second, third one, schedule. Okay, now schedule. Okay, this is where we need to change a few things. Okay, you notice that week start on. Okay, week start on. Okay, the one that I already prepared earlier is based on 1st January this year. Okay, let's say 1st January this year basically start on Saturday. Okay, so the project start on Saturday. You can, well, perhaps everybody will use the same date, 1st January this year, 2022. So so that we know at the end of the day, when you get the answer, it should be almost similar to the one that I'm working on. Okay, so you need to change this to Saturday, the exact day that you start the project. Well, you might say that the Saturday is the holiday. If, for instance, your default holiday is Saturday is a off day, for sure the computer will jump into next Monday. But for our project, we are going to work 7 days a week. It is like real Malaysian contractor, work every day, but the project still delay. Okay, now, so remember, let's say your project start on Tuesday, based on the calendar. You must change that into Tuesday. Don't basically, maybe some of the people might misunderstood. Oh, the weekday start on Monday. Well, if you do that, then basically the concept of calculation will not be accurate, because week will be counted from the first day you start the work until the next day on similar day, the next week on similar day. That will be considered as 1 week. Jadi you must click on the right thing, and then you must click on the right month. If, for instance, I want to start on the 1st February, I need to figure out what could be the day on the 1st February. I need to change those things, and then I need to click on February. But since I am going to stick with January this year, so that will be mine. Okay, next will be default start time. 8 to 5 is default start time. But since I'm very hardworking contractor, I want to work until 7 p.m. So why don't I change that into 7 p.m.? I just simply type 7 and then p.m. Click enter. Also can. Instead of dragging into trying to find the right things, you can do that. Okay, now let's assume, okay, 8 to 5 is actually 9 hours. 8 to 5 is 9 hours, but 1 hour is allocated for lunch. So that's why working hours is only 8 hours. But if it is 8 to 7, which is 11 hours, 11 hours, if we minus the lunch hour, so it will end up to be 10. So let's say we are going to work 10 hours per day, okay? And then if, for instance, we are going to work every day, for sure, hours per week would be 7 days per week times 10. That would be 70. Okay, sorry. I click ni pula dah. Okay, never mind. We go back here, schedule 8 to 7, and then 10, 70. Okay, how about days per month? Days per month ni kita, because every day, we can basically go for 30 days. Even though some of the month could have less than 30 and then more than 31, just assume 30 days. Okay, so we already finished on those things. Now let's go into the next one. Show assignment unit as decimal. Okay, decimal or percentage? Decimal or percentage? So this is the resource sheet. Okay, let me click on the resource sheet in Excel again. Where is that resource? This is basically refer to this unit. If you choose percentage, the surveyor will show 100%. That is what percentage mean. But if you want to show into decimal unit, it will show 1, 2, 3, whatever. That is what we call decimal unit. Well, if you put, for instance, 100%, meaning to say it can be less than 100%, kan? 50%. And in terms of unit, it will show 0.5 unit. What does that thing mean? Well, it simply means that that guy or whoever the resource that you refer to is going to work what we call half of the time. Maybe that guy is going to work morning shift, 4 hours in the morning only. That is what we call 50% or even 0.5. Okay, but for our case, don't get confused. We just use round number, even number, so that it basically relate to the construction activities. Okay, next would be new task created. Okay, when you click this thing, auto schedule and manual schedule. So for the start, we use auto schedule. Well, the manual schedule, basically since, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2013, Microsoft Project version basically include the auto schedule and manual schedule. Previously, everything is basically auto. What is manual schedule and auto schedule? If you click, notice at this left bottom of the screen, there is a when you click, there is an auto manual. Okay, if you do not do the setting up, then basically the option will be available there. But most of the time, when you input the data, it will turn into manual. Manual schedule meaning to say you can input the information, whatever thing that you can input. Whereas auto schedule meaning to say you have to input the information according to what being asked or according to the format in the column format. Otherwise, the computer will keep giving you sounds. Okay. So for now, we just simply going to learn using auto schedule. Okay. Manual schedule normally being used during brainstorming session. If you are not sure about many things, so you just simply put the duration KIV, for instance, the date of start certain activity, you just simply put tentative date. You can change those things. Okay, that is what manual and manual scheduling is all about. Okay, then duration is enter. You can click here, minute, hours, day, week, but we are going to maintain the days. Work is entered in hours. Okay, what is work? Work is being defined as unit, time, duration in Microsoft Project. So we normally put in terms of unit, for instance, but then it will be converted into hours. How many hours of work? Okay, maybe in a country like US, for instance, they do have hourly hour rate for everything. So that's why it is more compatible when they are using this kind of software because it fit into their work environment. Okay, so the hours is basically how many hours you are going to spend on certain activity based on unit and then time with the duration. Unit of resources. That is what I mean. Okay. And then default task type. Okay, this is where you need to choose the right thing. Okay, if you click on this thing, fixed unit, fixed duration, and fixed work. So unit and work is almost similar thing, except that work, as I defined, is unit time duration. Okay, in terms of hours. Unit is how many unit of resources. So if, for instance, in most of the time, maybe you can click on fixed unit and then new task. You need to click on this button as well. We already learned this thing in project in labor resource management. As I mentioned, there are two ways normally people do the scheduling based on time-driven or what we call resource-driven. If you can still remember, you can refer to my slide. Time-driven or resource-driven. Time-driven, meaning to say we fix the timing first, and then we figure out what could be the right resources in order to fit our timing. So if we do that, then we are going to do something like this, fixed duration. So you unclick this button, and that is the pair. But if, for instance, we are using a resource-driven, which most of the time that could be the logic that we normally use in construction industry, because for sure, when you input less resources later on, automatically your duration will be adjusted, okay, accordingly. Okay, if for instance, another selection, if you change to fixed unit, so make sure you are going to click this button as well. Okay, that is the pair, the thing that must be together. Okay, but for now we are going to click on fixed duration, and then we are going to unclick this thing, and then we can click on auto link, we can click on keep task and nearest working here. Okay, and then what else? Okay, that's it. Okay, let me repeat again. In under schedule, what I did was I figured out when is the project start date on the 1st January 2022, which basically fall on Saturday. I choose Saturday, and then January is the month. And then I changed 8 to 7. 7 is the one I changed. And then I put 10 hours per day, 70 hours per week, and 30 days per month. Then I choose the decimal in order to the maximum unit of resources to appear on decimal instead of percentage. I click on auto schedule. I didn't change anything here. I just click on fixed duration, but make sure this is unticked. And then I tick on auto link, and then I tick here. Okay, so that is the schedule. Okay, next will be on save menu here. Well, I normally choose autosave every whatever. You can choose less than that in order to be really safe in case suddenly blackout occur. At least you have some recovery lah. But make sure that you click on prompt before saving, because sometimes you are still working. You are still trying to change into a proper way. Then if you do not click that, then it will be autosave. Okay, maybe you want to make changes. So having a prompt before saving, that would be good. Okay, next would be advanced. Okay, so in advanced, I do not change anything on top of here except on, you see, the unit you can have minute, hour, day, week, month, year, and mix and match into your Microsoft project, but I advise you to have one unit only, because otherwise it will be very confusing. Okay. Okay. Now for the advanced, I only going to click on the last button here related to calculation option here. I just basically tick here, everything here. Tick, tick. Okay. All right. So we are done. So again, in advance, I didn't do anything on the top of the page there. Just basically tick everything at bottom here. And lastly, the last thing that I want to go is the Trust Center menu here. Click on Trust Center setting. Click on Legacy Format, and click on the last button there in order to allow the computer to be able to read certain format or compatible format, especially I'm not really sure older version, or even Excel, or what we call SharePoint. Okay, so if you already done that, then you can click OK, because before we didn't click any OK. So now we are going to click OK, another OK. So meaning to say we already finished on setting up. Okay, let's go back to the option to check whether those things has been changed or not. Display, yeah, okay, it has been changed. Schedule, yeah, everything that we change is there. Okay, and then advanced, okay, yeah, it's there. So we are good to go. Okay, so we are good to go. All right, so that will be the first thing first, setting up. Then second, number two. Okay, number two is you need to click on project start date. Okay, remember project start date, we decided to start on the first day of January. So go until project menu and click on project information. You can double click and this window will appear. Okay, this window will appear, and this is where you put project start date. Okay, so you can click on the first here, that is the calendar, and do not click anything else. We can basically click on OK. But before we go into OK, I just want to show you there is one button here we call it statistic. In case you wonder, if for instance you are working on a Microsoft project, maybe you want to input your assignment just for a check, because all software is basically use calendar. I think except Primavera, you can have the selection of what we call a number of days in terms of what we are doing manually. But Microsoft project, they will show you in terms of the date. So now you will have difficulties. How many days basically your project is completing? You want to know in terms of days, not in terms of date, but you can get the information here. Okay, how many duration, what are the costs? So, and in fact, percent complete, duration, percent complete in terms of work, etc. We are going to click this thing every now and then. Okay, so this is very, very good, what we call button there. So Saturday, okay, Saturday, I basically click. Okay, that is my project start date. Okay, okay, so I already, I think there is a line here you might not be able to see on the 1st January that indicate that would be the project start date. Okay. The third thing that you need to set up first before you input all the column here is basically the calendar. Here, you click under project. There is one menu here. Double click. So these are the calendar. You notice that the calendar looks like this. The gray color indicate default, it is non-working days. But the one that we are going to set up, if I click here, maybe on Friday, whatever the date here, you notice that on the right side, it basically gives us the timing as well. 8 until 12 and then 1 until 5. 12 to 1 is basically lunch hour. But our project, we want to start from 8 to 12, okay, fine. Then 1 until 7. So again, we need to change in terms of the hours, working hours, and we also need to change in terms of the work week or work days. So there are two things that we need to change in this calendar. Okay, so how to change? Well, you can use this button here, exception, and then work week. This is the only button that we are going to use. Okay, for instance, let me go back to let's say katakanlah kita ada hari raya. Okay, hari raya nanti mungkin tak tahu hari apa, katakanlah 4 ke 3 ke 4 ke. Katakanlah kita kata 4 April. Okay, katakanlah hari raya lah. So 4 dengan 5 April would be hari raya. So we want to log this thing as a holiday, but now it is not holiday. So how do we do that? Okay, so if we click on exception, so here in this what we call column row there, you type in hari raya. Okay, so when does it start? We'll start here. When does it finish? We are going to finish here. Ataupun kita boleh klik here. April 5. Okay. Betul. April 5. Alright. Okay, now let me click again. Tengok. Jadi. Okay, now you see, I already created what we call holiday. That is how, using the exception button, we just need to input what could be the holiday. Now the thing is being set as a gray color. So now you already have the holiday. Okay, so that will be how to set the working day into holiday using this exception button. Now we go back to our first day of work. Now we want to set, kita panggil apa, we want to set the Saturday and Sunday as work day, the other way around. Okay, so we need to use this button here, work week. Okay, you click on the work week button, and what we are going to do here, there is a detail. Click on detail, and since, well, if for instance you just want to change one day on the Saturday, so you can click on Saturday, okay, and then set this day as specific working time, for instance. But since every day is basically is working days, and then we need to change the working time as well, I will select all. I will basically use my, I can basically click, you can basically use the control button or shift button, hold on the shift button here. For instance, I click on shift button, hold on the shift button, and just I click Friday, so everything will be selected. Okay, so you can choose click on hold on shift or hold button in order to make range of selection or multiple selection. Okay, that will be first thing first. I select, then I will set days to specific working time. This is what I need to do. Then in this column here, I need to write down what could be the specific working time, AM. Then here, 12 p.m. Then here is 1 p.m. Then would be 7 p.m. Okay, so that is what I want. Then I click OK. Okay, so I click OK. You notice one thing. See, if you click on first day, second day, every day, it should basically give you the same timing that you already, what we call set. And Saturday and Sunday is basically is already working days until, well, because we didn't set a specific duration, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, our project will start at a particular date, and then it will end up with whatever duration that we basically set. Okay, that is how you set the calendar. And you know what? For instance, if you are working with your friend, let's say your friend didn't set the timing from 8 until 7, forget to set the timing, and it remained at 8 until 5. And at the end of the day, you will not get the same answer as with your friend. You might be wondering, especially in terms of maybe work hours, or even some of the duration, the overall duration. Okay, if the overall duration is not going to be affected, but at least work hours is going to be affected. And what could be the issue? Because of the setting up. Okay, now let's click OK. After I click OK, you notice what happened to my Gantt chart? The gray area is already disappeared. Okay, gray area already disappear, meaning to say every day is a working day. If the computer is keep asking you, yes, I want to save, because that is what I am doing right now and is in according to what I plan. Okay, so that is setting up. Okay, and you notice there is a, what is this thing? Okay, the starting line, the dotted line here indicate this is what we are going to start, and there is another line indicate the current date. Okay. Okay. Now we are going to get ready to input into our what we call the column. Okay. Before we input into our column, let's go back to our Excel task table. You notice that I want to input or I want to copy paste 3 columns at the same time. Okay, task name, duration, and predecessor. So instead of copy paste one by one, so you can basically copy paste the whole thing. I just want to reserve for the resources, just to show you. Okay, you can copy paste all, but that would not be the proper sequence. Okay, so since I already have the task name, duration, and then I'm going to copy 3 columns at the same time, but the predecessor is way here. I drag here. I drag here. You can drag it because it is like Excel. So now the what we call the arrangement looks very nice in accordance to what we call our Excel file here. Okay, so we start to do what we are good at, copy and paste. Okay, so do not copy on the first row task name because it's just the title, which is also similar to the Microsoft project title. We do not want to do that. So I just copy on the row number 2, if you can follow that, until row number 27, which is the last line there. So everything is there. So just simply copy. This is the old way of doing things, because I'm also old. Do slow and steady lah. Okay, now we want to paste. We paste into under the task name, the first row. Don't paste into the wrong thing. And then you click on paste. Alright, need to edit. Sekejap. Tadi dia ada ni sikit. Okay, never mind. If that thing happen, you just simply delete activity and redo those things. Okay. Okay, now, okay, that should be the way. Okay, now you already paste. Okay, you already paste, and you see the project start date is the same date that we already mentioned, but the finish date is we need to do some adjustment later on. Okay, so we already copied the first 3 columns. Okay, successfully. Is it successfully or not? We can only tell when we look at the what we call answer. By right, when you do copy and paste, at the end of the day, then for sure you are going to end up with the overall project duration. Then only you know whether you are copying things rightly or not. Okay, so we already copy paste the first 3 columns. Okay, so now it is 10:37. Why don't we take a break before we continue with this thing? Okay, then. We take about 10-minute break, please.
Okay.
Okay, let me put a pause. Okay, welcome back. All right, so we already complete imputing the 3 column there, task name, duration, and predecessor, but we have not done yet. Okay, if you notice in task name, they are colored tasks. The one in yellow and the one in gray is not the real activity or the real task. The real task is the one that basically doesn't have any color, the white color. Example of activity, numbering, number. Okay, on the left-hand side here, the one that I click here, sorry, 1, 2, 3. This is what I call unique ID generated by Microsoft project. And Microsoft project only recognize the activity task using this ID. So for instance, survey is the ID number 3. For instance, if earthwork is going to be connected from survey, meaning to say the survey is the predecessor of for earthwork. So the predecessor number 3 is belong to activity for survey. That is how the computer or the input in Microsoft, even in Primavera, okay? Because the computer do not recognize the task using the name. So the computer only recognize according to the unique ID, which automatically going to be generated by the Microsoft. You notice that the ID is from ID number 1 until 26 because that is the row that we input the information. Okay, so the real tasks are the one basically uh, in row that doesn't have any color. The colored one is basically is the one that I add up in order to classify certain activity according to the work group or category. This is what we call WBS. And when you input duration that belong to certain activities, let's put one extra. Let's say I put information A. So when you do from the scratch, for instance, you would input activity such as A. This is the name of the activity, and then you will enter. You notice the computer will keep asking you what could be the duration. This is what we call automatic scheduling. Automatic scheduling is always like that. When you input information A as a task, then the computer will ask you, is it 1 day? So you need to answer the computer by, let's say it is 1 day, you click 1 and then you click enter. Then the question mark would disappear. So you do not want to have the question mark in your duration column because it mean that some of the item is not what we call confirmed yet. Is it the right duration? So it looks like all the activity that we input already doesn't have any question mark there. Okay, that is fine. But there are some which basically yellow and gray kind of row there do have question mark because we are going to do WBS, or that's what we call organizer project. Okay, so let me delete this A, which is not part of the task yet. Okay, now in order to show you why do we need to organize our project, let's insert column WBS. So when you right click and then insert column, you will notice a lot of selection. If you want to zoom in into WBS, simply type W. So all the thing with regard to W will appear, and then it is much easier to click on WBS. Okay. So you notice that the current WBS based on our input looks like this. 1 until 26. What is this thing? This is not WBS. WBS, remember, if you go back to my slide, it is like looks like organization table. Organization normally organizational chart that basically refer to people, but WBS basically refer to work. So we should have what we call level, okay, level 1, level 2, level 3, and then item should be associated with level item number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then if it is in level 2, that will be 1.1. If it is in level 3, that will be 1.1.1. That should be the way WBS should be. Okay, that's what we call organize. So now I want to organize. If you look at the my activity, I have 3 big organization here. One is basically I organize according to site work, foundation work, and then check close out. So that will be item 1, 2, 3. It's a big item under the first level. And then under the site work, I am going to split again into zone A and then zone B. And then under zone B and zone A, I will have 2 activity going to sit under zone A. When I do that, you will notice changes in the numbering of WBS. It looks like the chapter in the thesis or in the books. You notice that chapter 1 start from 1, and then it could be 1.1, then 1.1.1, 1.1.2, etc., etc. So that is the thing that we want it to be. That's what we call organized. When I do organize, later on, this question mark in some of the item here will basically disappear, and automatically we are going to have the right what we call duration. What is this duration mean with regard to the one that being colored? Is basically, let's say the zone A consists of 2 activity. Okay, consists of 2 activity. If they are finished to start activity, they will be counted as 9 plus 12, for instance, 21 days automatically. That should be the way. Okay, so now let's do organize. In order to do organize, we are going to select the activity in accordance to what we want the activity to be in, okay, to be into. Then we are going to use this button. Under the task menu, there is this button here. On the right is basically the arrow to the right, basically we call it indent. Indent, it is like the tab in your computer, you want to tap, okay? So when you tap, you notice that the cursor will move a little bit to certain places. That is similar concept, okay? So that is way to organize. The left indent, we call it outdent, meaning to say if you make a mistake, then you select back the list of activity, and then this is like undo for the indent. Okay, even though we do have undo button here at the top of the screen there, but for indent, normally you do that. And if you make a mistake in terms of organizing, later on you might not get the answer also in terms of the overall project direction. It looks a little bit different from my way of doing things, perhaps because of the issue of indent. Okay, now let me group according to the yellow color first. Okay, let's say, first thing first, I want to group the activity which basically belong to site work. The activity is from row number 2. I just select row number 2 until row number 7. Don't encroach into the row number 8 because that is different zone, different category of area. So I select only all the activity that belong to those things. Okay, let me click on, okay, sekejap. Mana dia punya cursor. Sekejap. Mouse ni tak, mana mouse? Where is the mouse? Mouse ni dia jadi gila sikit. Sekejap. Sekejap wait a second. Sekejap. Okay. So now I select those things. Okay. I select those things already. Then I go to indent button. I click indent. See what happened. You see? You would notice that starting from zone A until the end, it basically tap a little bit. Okay. And then zone A and zone and site work basically is now basically appearing in bold. Okay, if for instance myself I already put into bold, but normally the bold indicate that it is already grouping. Okay, now the WPS looks like 1.1, 1.2. So these are the items that belong to item 1. Remember, the yellow grouping basically consists of 3 items. Site work will be item number 1, so that will be 1. The number 1 is correct. Now I want to make foundation work as number 2. Okay, but then all the activity under foundation work belong to basically foundation work, then we will notice 2.1 until the end. Okay, so we repeat the same kind of choose row number 8 until 22. Okay, and then click indent. Okay, now you see foundation work now will be bold, and then there is a one at the left side of the foundation work. You notice there is a triangle there. Okay, never mind. Later on, we will click on those things. And then close out. So close out will be item number 3. And then activity, site cleaning belong to close out. So there are not many sub-activity under close out, only 3 activities. So we will select and then click indent. You see? Now you notice the close out 7 days is being calculated automatically based on 6 plus 1 because the link is right. It is in accordance to the predecessor as well. So that should be the right answer. But for site work and the foundation work, we do still have the question mark because we have not done the organized according to zone A and zone B, which we are going to do. Okay, so now let me close. Let me show you what does this indent basically do to our WBS. Let me close this. Okay, this button there. See, I can click those buttons. Okay, you need to have a better mouse. Another. You see, you notice when I click those things, those triangle button there, so it kind of hide the detail. Remember the one that we mentioned about master plan and detail plan? If, for instance, you want to show the master plan of your project, perhaps you can show something like this only. Then if you need to show the detail, then only you click the detail, okay? But since we do not have many activity, it's better to show all. Okay, now as I do not want to confuse you, let me just simply open site work first. Okay, just simply open the site work first. Okay, now I want to group according to zone A and zone B. Okay, so zone A only consists of 2 activity, row 3 and 4, and then I click indent. So now I already grouped 2 activity according to zone A. Now I want to complete the rest in terms of zone B. I select the activity first and then indent. Okay, you notice one thing. Site work now already confirmed 31 days based on this what we call grouping. Okay, so now I open up the foundation work so that I can do the grouping for zone A and zone B. Select those things and then click indent. Okay, you notice the WBS, it looks like the one that we want, 2.1 and then 2.11. That should be the right thing. And then this for zone B, make sure you select the right one. Then you click indent. Okay, so you open up the close out. Close out, it doesn't have any zone A or zone B. So this is what your scheduling looks like after you organize. Okay, so not only you need to input the task name, because when you input, it is like input into the Excel, just one row there, but then you need to show how things are being organized, how a certain activity relate to others. Okay, so in order to do that, we are going to use what we call indent. Okay, so we have done that. All right. So now we make it smaller, this column, otherwise you could not see many things. Sorry. Okay, now what I want to do is to check whether what we are doing is right or not. Right or not in terms of how many number of duration we are getting. So what can we do? We can go to project, click on project information and try to click on statistic. are we getting 77 days? This is what we want. So if you are getting 77 days, meaning to say so far you already done the right thing, meaning to say you copy, paste, and then organize in the right things. That should be the answer. So statistic will give you the information, but there is another quick way to get the information in terms of the overall project duration. You notice there is a row number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You can make row number 0 to appear. That's what we call summary tasks. Okay, how to do that? Go click under format and you click on project summary tasks, click here, and you notice here, project duration 77 days is there. And Rahim as the file name is there, is show this the summary. And let's take a look at our Gantt chart. Okay, Gantt chart. Now you notice there is the blue color is basically the bar chart, the Gantt chart. But then there is a one what we call line there. If you move your cursor, it will basically give you information with regard to the summary. See? The summary for zone A is there. And you notice that everything is blue. How about the critical activity? Well, under this format, you can click on critical tasks in order for the computer to show the critical task on this diagram. See, the red color indicate the critical task. The critical task. Maybe this one is too big. Maybe we can go into view. You can click on entire project so that it basically fit into your screen. See, you can see this thing. When is the project going to be completed? It's going to be completed on 18th of March. Okay, so far this is what we have learned in our first week of the class. We basically developed a project based on task, duration, and predecessor. Okay, except on resources. Okay, next will be the resources. How about the network diagram? Okay, or PDM diagram. We call it PDM diagram, but in Microsoft project, they call it network diagram. So now we can click on network diagram here. This is the button. You can see, make it smaller. Okay, make it smaller so that we can, here. You notice that the one in square box indicate activity, okay, all the activity, and the one in red indicate the critical activities, and the one with basically the this kind of shape box, it is not activity, it is just the summary task. So don't get confused. That's why they are not be connected. The connected one are the activities. We only connect between activities. So, okay, let me, for instance, okay, if you click on this diagram, let's say you click on this line here, double click, you will notice the type of relationship. We do have 4 type of relationship. Okay, you can select if, for instance, your activity is start to start instead of finish to finish, you can change. Okay, you can even put lag or lead, lag positive or lag negative. You can change it here, but I will remind you, in terms of drawing, the computer will not show lag or lead or start to start into drawing. It will simply because the Microsoft project doesn't have the capacity to do that. I think except Primavera do have. Okay, but if you go back to your Gantt chart, it will give you the right kind of information. See, in activity number 13, we do have finish to start with negative what we call lag. That is example. Okay, if you do not believe me, you can go and click on this activity number 13 on the relationship. You will notice, okay, you will notice that the lead is there. Okay, so now we already complete what we call task name, duration, and predecessor. Now let me open up the column. Okay, this column. Okay, before we go into that, maybe some of you might be wondering, how do we know about total float and free float? Well, take a look at this. Okay, this area here, you move your cursor at this spot here. This is a trick here, and then right click. You notice the entry. Entry basically this thing is basically we call it entry. If you click on the cost, then it will show the cost table. We have not input any cost yet, but if you want to look at try to click here schedule. You see, this is what we call early start, early finish, late start, late finish according to date. And free flag is basically free float. Total slack is total float. They do not use the term float. They call it slack. Even Primavera also use the same thing. So if, for instance, if you want to give a try with your whatever assignment question that you do in what we call manually, and then you input into the computer and see whether you are getting the right answer or not. So you can take a look at under what we call schedule. And then there are many views. So Microsoft Project, basically, because of the viewing area is so limited, so you need to basically click on what you want to view. So by default, this is what we call entry. Okay, now we want to move into resource. Okay, so only one more column that we need to do. Then we are going to finish in terms of developing project schedule. So resource. So resource, as I mentioned, if you click here, there is a down arrow there. There is nothing, okay? Because we have not input any resources yet. So how do we input resources? Okay, the way to input resources is through what we call resource sheet. Click on resource sheet, which is basically empty resource sheet. You can basically, we can start input, for instance, carpenter. See, carpenter is in category of work. We can change to others, but normally man, machine is in the category of work, whereas material, you are going to input the material, etc., etc. So this is what you can manually input, okay? So when you input here, it is like a library, all the information. The computer only will read whatever being attached to the activity. If, for instance, you do not attach anything, even though you already have list of resources, then there is no impact to the schedule that you are doing. Okay, so meaning to say, you can prepare this list of activity as a one file without even having all the task name, etc., and save as one file, and you can use it again and again in many other projects. You just simply copy and paste, and then when you want certain activity, then only you select. As simple as that. Okay. So next will be, let's say, dumper. That's how you input man, machine, and then material. Material like earthwork. According to your kita panggil apa? Kita panggil BQ. Okay, earthwork. Then you see, but then this one you need to change into cost. But if you are sorry, cost not material. Material. Then you can put a unit, let's say cubic meter. Then you can change the rate, katakanlah 10 ringgit. So automatically, the computer later on will read the unit rate as 10 ringgit per cubic meter. Then when you input the quantity of earthwork, computer will do the calculation. And another one, another unit that you can input is basically unit of cost. For instance, subcon A, subcon B, traveling. So you notice you can input costs. You can input costs as a unit. Okay, this is what we call lump sum costs. Okay, lump sum costs. But then you do not put cost here. You are going to input the cost into the right place. I'm just telling you, there are 4 ways of putting the resources. Okay, the first 3 is using the rate. Okay, but we are not going to use rate. We are not going to split the rate according to man, machine, and material. We are going to use as if we are going to use a unit rate similar to the BQ. That will be the easier way out. Whereas the cost we can input either here or we can input into what we call fixed costs, which I'm going to show you using fixed costs. Okay. Okay, let me, I do not want this, what we call, I delete the resources because I already prepared the list of resources. I'm just showing you. Okay, go back to my Excel, click on resource sheet. Okay, these are the resources that I already prepared. Initially, I prepared in the Microsoft project and then copy back into Microsoft Excel in order for you to see the data that you should prepare. Okay, I just color those things in order to distinguish that we need to have a man, machine, and material. Okay, let me copy those things starting from the second row, copy, and then go to the Microsoft project, paste on the under resource, the first space there, and then paste. Okay, what is this? The 4 resources type, abbreviation, the cancel the separation. Okay, to continue pasting with additional error. No error. Okay, let me try. Okay. All right. So these are the things that I already copy and paste. But you notice a few things. I do not know what happened. There are some of the information are not being pasted. Okay, so that's okay. It looks like these things are not being pasted in according to what I want. So never mind. We go back to the Excel. So we just simply copy and paste. Okay. So hopefully it will. Yeah, paste. Okay. Okay, paste. But it looks like the rate for the material are not being pasted. That is the issue. 6, 5. Okay, let me try because sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, do not know what happened. Okay, now paste. You see, it doesn't work. Never mind, because it is not many, so I just simply put type in according to what 650, 15, 650, 50 here, then 15 there, and then what else? 2,530. Okay. A little bit. Okay, is that the right thing? And then the what? 30 to 110. Oh, sorry. 30. So this is the issue. 30 210. You can try in your computer. I'm not really sure what happened to mine. Okay, but that's okay. So that is how we input the what we call the resource. And you notice that I'm using the standard rate, but I leave it blank to man and machine because I want to focus putting into the material using unit rate similar to the concept of BQ. Okay, then only you get the right cost similar to what you put into the BQ. Okay. All right. Now we are ready to go. Okay. This is resource sheet. Go back to your Gantt chart. So you click Gantt chart. Okay. So now you notice the resource column, resource name, still empty. Okay. Because we need to link what is being mentioned in the resource sheet into a proper, the right resources as what we plan. But if, for instance, you click on here, you notice the list of resources that you input is already here. If, for instance, all the what we call the resources is only one, you can just simply click, and then it will show as the resources. But that is not the proper way of doing things. Let me show you the proper way of doing things. Okay. Let's say you want to input the resources. You can click on one particular activity or multiple activity if those things share the same resources. Then you are going to click on menu resource, click assign resource. This is the proper way. The dialog box will open. Let's say from our data, survey is going to be to use surveyor. Click on surveyor. You can just simply click enter, or you can just simply click assign. What happens is that, yes?
What would be the impact if we use this way, your click at resource and then assign resource, and the other way, when you right hand click and then just select, what will be the difference?
Okay, the issue is that you want the unit to let's say surveyor, basically you need two unit, because the one that you click is simply mean one unit only. That is the issue. Okay, the issue with the unit, because you want to make changes in terms of unit. Okay, let's go into another example. Okay, let's say you click on surveyor and then you can change the unit here, whereas if you click from here, you click on surveyor, that is mean one. But let's say surveyor is two. Then how? That is what I mean. Okay, because for instance, in the second activity here, earthwork. Okay, in second activity, if we click on Excel information here, okay, on the second activity, it looks like dumper, 4 excavator, roller, earthwork, 2,000 cubic meter. Okay, so if I go back to here, how am I going to, I can click dumper, but the dumper will appear, let me click roller, okay, even earthwork. Okay, earthwork, for instance, okay, if I click there, of course, those things will appear, but the unit is only 1. That's why I use this concept, assign resources. Then, you see, the unit, I basically can change into whatever unit I want. For instance, where is the right information from Excel there? Dumper ada 4, excavator dan sebagainya lah. Okay, even earthwork 1,500. Itu contoh. That's why I use assign resources so that I can input unit. Unit is the one that you need to input. And you notice there is a cost is going to be generated. It's going to be generated because the earthwork, I put unit rate as 6 ringgit. So if it is 1, 6 times 1 equivalent to 6. Okay, but later on, okay, let me put a proper, okay, even in your Gantt chart, you see, you notice that the resources are being shown there already. You can hide, for instance, if it is too messy later on when you have a big Gantt chart with all kind of information, it is too messy, you can hide those information. Okay, so let me basically erase this thing. Okay, let me erase the information here. Okay, so that I will put into a proper resources. Okay, so that is how you input the resources. First thing first, you must select the activity and then assign the resources so that the dialog box will appear, and then you can input the right unit in terms of the manpower, in terms of the machine, and in terms of the unit of material. Okay, that is what I mean by inputting using assigned resources. Otherwise, you can click here. This is just simply 11111, but you can change later. There are many ways to change, okay? But we are learning one kind of method only. You can even change. If you are expert later on, you can double click this one. You see, even this dialog box will appear the resources. You can work and input the information here, but I do not want you to get confused. So we just try a simple method first. Okay, now let me go back to the resource table here. I already input surveyor, okay? Now I want to input the rest of the resources. Since I already prepared in accordance to the right format, okay, I can just simply copy, and then I go back to my here, this column, resource name column. Make sure you paste into the right place. Most of the time, the mistake that people did was paste into the wrong place. That's why you didn't get answer. Then I click paste. Okay. Now it is being pasted, and make sure when you do this, you double check with the Excel list. So some of the issue that happen, some of the things are not being pasted accordingly for whatever reason. So make sure it is being pasted. Okay. In order to know whether it is being pasted correctly or not, we can only figure out when we go into the statistic again. Now, let's click on row number 4. Just want to show you. Now you see, row number 4, because the issue is that we do have variation unit, not only one. Dumper 4, and then earthwork is 2,000, I make it bigger, 2,000 cubic meter. And why do we get 12,000 ringgit? Because the computer already automatically calculate for us. So we let the computer do the works for us. So at the end of the day, we are going to have the total cost for this project. So since we already input all the resources and we do have the material rate, and now we can take a look at the cost. Okay. So the cost, I can open up another column here, insert column. I can click on cost, can input just cost column. So make it bigger to see what will be the cost. 91,620. That will be the cost so far that we already input. Okay, but we have to bear in mind all the activity, the construction activity should have, each activity should have costs. Okay, should have costs, except for activity which doesn't require extra people. For instance, let's say inspection. Inspection, basically your own people doing the inspection. Let's say there is a zero cost, so you don't have to worry about the cost. But if, for instance, you hire outside people to do the inspection, then perhaps there is a cost that you need to input. Logically, each activity should have the cost. But you notice one thing, go back to our Excel, go back to resource unit. There are certain activity which doesn't have the unit being put there because it is being considered as lump sum, the fixed cost. So how do we input this cost into our Microsoft project? Because we do not use the unit rate. So sometimes we can use the rate, the lump sum according to subcon. As I show you in the resource name, you can put subcon, whatever the name of subcon, but then you need to input the cost directly into when you assign the resources. That is a little bit different, okay? But most of the contractor would normally put into the fixed cost. That is the easy way. So what, okay, how do we do that? 9, 8, okay, let's go back to our Microsoft project. Okay, now I want to go into the cost table in order to input those things. I can just simply insert the column, but let me go into right click into cost table. Okay, you see, the cost table already show us all kind of costs being tabulated. You notice that if you click on this fixed cost, there is 0, 0, 0, 0. Meaning to say all the cost that we already input is not a fixed cost. It is based on the cost being generated using unit rate. That's why it doesn't appear here on fixed cost. But if, for instance, survey and backfill is basically lump sum cost, we can simply put it here. How do we input? 9,000 and enter. That is for the survey. How about survey? Second one is 8,000 survey. Okay, let's check our Excel again. 9, 8, and then backfill zone A will be 4,434. Okay, yes. So backfill for A is 4,000. Okay, and then 3. And then site cleaning will be 4. Okay, so now this is the right cost that I want. 119,620. So if you are getting the right answer here, meaning to say you are doing things right, so in terms of cost, and then make sure when you go back to the, let me click entry, maybe report here, no, sorry, under the project information, double click, click statistic. You notice the project is 77 days and the project cost is 119,620. So this is the right project that we want. Okay, this is the right project that we want. Okay, now we are almost complete our first thing, meaning to say developing a project using Microsoft Project software. We already input all the right information. This is what we are getting. Okay. Now, remember, we learned in the first week of the class is the basis to develop a project. Then on the second weekend, we go into resource management. In resource management, we learn about project smoothing, resource smoothing, and leveling. So when we input manpower, we are going to see this kind of issue. You see, on the left-hand side, the indicator column here, this one, row number 12 and row number 19, this one is basically indicated by a red person. So when you do your exercise at home later on, you should have this 2% also, meaning to say this is the right apa tu, kita kata project you are working. Unless if you have multiple, more than 2, meaning something is wrong somewhere. By right, you should have 2. We want this because I want to show you something about this. What does this thing mean? Okay, let's go back to our resource sheet. This is resource sheet. You notice the red colored person is coming from carpenter. Meaning to say, carpenter is, we allocate 14 number of carpenter at one time maximum, but when we use, the number is not sufficient. Why? Because sometimes we put a few carpenter working on certain area and this area, and when we do have overlapping activity, then it is being add up as if our resource histogram diagram. Then at the end of the day, it looks like the resource is insufficient. This is the good thing about Microsoft Project. It gives us indicator. Give indicator so that we can be prepared. Oh, okay. In order to know, okay, let me click. You don't have to click this one because we are going to solve this issue with a simple with a simple method, but I just simply want to show you there are a few things that you can zoom in order to know what is the problem with the carpenter. Okay, you can click on carpenter, then you can click on view, and then you can click on other views in order to zoom in, more views, then click on resource allocation. You can click apply. Okay, now the carpenter is being shown, is working on what kind of activity? Activity from both at zone A and at zone B. So carpenter is working on that two activity only, no other activity. And when you move your cursor here, you need to drag your cursor in order to show the activity. You notice the activity, the blue color are the Gantt chart for the activity, and we allocate 8% working for from zone A. Okay, 8%. Then suddenly you notice that carpenter at zone A is 8%, 8%. At zone B is also 8%. You notice Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, in 5 days, if you add up those values, that will be 8 plus 8 will be 16. Whereas we only allocate 14. So we know that we are going to experience insufficient number of people. So what shall we do? This is a good thing about software, so that you can be prepared. Once you already know, you don't have to wait until the event happen, then you will get stuck with people. You can do something, okay? What are you going to do? Well, the easy way of doing things, for instance, you shift the activity. The second activity from work zone B by 5 days. If you already know, if you already come into this kind of exercise, you notice there is this value here. This is for you to shift, delay by 1 day. What will happen, you see? You shift by 1 day. So shift by 1 day, nothing is going to be affected because the red man is still there, meaning to say your problem still it's not being solved. So you need to shift by 5 days. Click that. You see, the red man basically disappear. So it looks like you resolve the resource conflict. Okay, but then, so solving one problem will create another problem. So now let's go back to our, okay, if you are in this situation, in this, what we call mode, if you want to go back to the Gantt chart, so you need to unclick or untick the detail. Then you can go back to Gantt chart because your window now is being split into the third window. Actually, your window basically you can view the Gantt chart area is one, the Gantt chart area is one, the spreadsheet area is another one, but there is another window that you can show. If you click on detail here, under view, you click on detail here, you see it will show another window which basically reflect what are the detail of activity. See, if you move your mouse here on the right side and right click, you can show many more detail with regard to this thing. This normally when you want to inspect each of the activity in a specific detail. So that is where you click. Okay, now I unclick those things. Okay, now let's go back to our project. You notice one thing. You see, the project now become 82 days instead of 77. Now it becomes 82 days because we shift one activity by 5 days and automatically it is being add up. If, for instance, you can accommodate 5 extra days, that should be fine. You solve one problem, you can go ahead. But what happens if you cannot afford to have another 5 more days? So you do not want to do that kind of changes. Now let's go back to our issue, carpenter. Now it looks like the carpenter is okay already, but the issue, you already extended the project. So let's go back to our original issue before again. So this is the issue. So let me say, okay, let's say you cannot afford to have delay. Oh, sorry. Let's change back to the original. Okay, this is what original. Okay, before we go into, there is another method. The good thing about Microsoft Project or even Primavera, you click on the resource, you see resource leveling. We learn resource leveling manually. And you know what? Microsoft Project do have resource leveling function. So if you click resource leveling, click here. Carpenter is the one. There could be multiple resources, but since this is the only one, so I level now. You can take a look at what would happen to this one. You see, the computer is the one that do the resource leveling. And again, you go back to the same issue. The project will be extended, whether you like it or not. The one that I showed you before is basically, since I know how to zoom into the area, that is where we can go into detail. But if you do not know, that you can click level resources. But if you notice that the project is going to be extended, you do not want this thing to happen, you can clear leveling. Click on clear leveling, it is like you undo. So it go back to the same thing. Okay, before we solve this issue, let me just click one item, resource graph. Here, I click on resource graph. You notice that the one that we have been, I have been showing you drawing the resource histogram in a topic resource smoothing and leveling. Now Microsoft Project basically do have resource graph as well. And this is the resource graph on our issue, Carpenter. Carpenter is working on Form A and Form B. And it is being shown here. It looks like the red in color is the one that we call resource conflict or over allocated resources. The 14 is the one that we limit the number, but then we are the one that put extra people on that particular activity. But for sure, sometimes we didn't know until we look at the graph, then only we notice, it is extra people there, so we better do something else. Okay, so this is, so on the day number, we can change the time scale here. Friday, Saturday, the peak value or the maximum value of unit of resources is basically 16. It's happening on, it's happening in 5 days, for instance. So now, to solve this issue permanently, okay, let me go back to resource. See, when you do not untick the detail, when you go back to the resource sheet, you'll not be showing nicely simply because of the you have the split window there. Okay, now this is the issue. So I want you, because we already almost complete developing a project, okay, what you need to do, okay, in your file to complete this thing. So this Carpenter, okay, yes, okay, you need to change this thing into 16 because you know that 16 is the right number. And you see, once you put the right maximum value, so basically you solve one of the issue without extending 5 more days. Okay, that is, this is just computer gives you indicator. We are the one that basically need to react. Computer basically do not know what to do anyway. Okay, that is the that is how we use software to help us. Okay, so if you already changed, then this is the Gantt chart. Nothing happened because we do not change anything because we are just solving the resource conflict by adding more resources. The cost and the duration of the project remain the same. So if you already complete this thing, you will basically make sure you click save. So now we already done the first part of the project scheduling. Okay. So now what I want to do is basically to just close this file. And I also close this Excel because I don't need this Excel anymore. Okay. Let me go back to the folder that I saved my file, because we are going to move into the next stage. Okay, the next stage is basically we are going to generate a value for S-curve, physical S-curve and financial S-curve as our plan, or what we call target. And then after that, we are going to update our project. That's what we call actual. Okay, before we do that, let's do a folder management. This is my style. Different people might have different way of doing things, but you would appreciate later on, because when you do updating whatever, if you're working on the same file, sometimes you basically lost track which one is which. So it is better to do folder management. Okay, my folder management will be named first original. That will be folder number 1. Then I can just simply copy, so never mind. Then folder number 2, I call it plan. Okay, plan or target. You can use either wording. Okay, then folder number 3, I call it 3 actual. Okay, so now the original file is basically Rahim. I will basically copy this file, copy, and put into all the folder. Okay, so all the folder having the same file, but later on we are going to change into something as to distinguish. Okay, why do we have the original folder? In case something happened when you, normally when your project already start, you are going to be working on the actual, the folder number 3. But then if something happen, you make changes, whatever, you do not have any backup. So that is why original is there. Okay, so to be safe. Okay, so far, what we have been doing for the past how many hours already, we are working on folder number 1. Folder number 1 only have one file. This is the original file. Okay, now I want to move into what we call folder number 2. Okay, I want to move into folder number 2. Then subsequently, I will move into folder number 3. Okay, now let me click on folder number 2. Okay, before I do anything, I want to change the name as to distinguish the file, that this file is belong to folder number 2. I can put underscore and then indicate by P. P is basically plan, stand for plan. Because we do have the same file in folder number 3. Here, I can click that. I change the name first. Okay, all right. And then I call it A, underscore A. A stands for actual. Then I go back. Then I open, now I already finished working on folder number 1. Okay, that's it. Now I want to concentrate my work on folder number 2 only. Yeah. Then I open up this folder. Then I already make changes to the name. Then I can open this file. The same file, nothing happened. Okay, nothing happened. This is where I want to show you how to generate the values for S-curve, physical, and then financial in terms of the plan or the original, the target. Okay, because normally when you submit to the client, even during tender, you submit the S-curve. That is what we call plan, because the project has not started yet. Even when you already win a tender, for instance, within a few weeks, you need to submit real work program plus the S-curve. So now we are doing something like that. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, so before we go into that, why don't we take another break, like 5-minute break, to have your coffee. Okay, then. Okay, now we can continue with how to generate what we call S-curve for physical and financial as a target. Okay, as a target. Remember, the project have not started yet. Let's assume, because when we start the project, then only we can update the project in folder number 3, which we are going to do after this. Okay. Now we are working on this file. Okay, so before I show you the update, how to generate values, let me show you the S-curve or the data that we are going to work on. Okay, so maybe I can show you this one. Okay, for instance, financial cash flow. I'm going to generate the values based on this S-curve. The blue color is basically the plan or target. So which is basically in folder number 2, we are going to do that not right now. Okay, right now, in terms of financially, let's say we want to get the value in terms of 2 weekly interval or whatever the interval that you want. You can weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever. Normally, if for a big project, let's say you target a progress claim or report every 1 month, every month. So your target date would be every month. That would be your target date, and you want to know on the first month, at the end of the first month, what would be the 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 cost that you basically supposed to be completed. There will be cumulative costs. That's what we call financial cash flow. So we want to generate the value. And then the red in color is basically the actual. That will be done in folder number 3 after this. Now we want to generate the data as if we want to know what could be the value bi-weekly, because the project is so short. I just want to set the bi-weekly data. You can set any other data you want, but if you set according to my date, for instance, for sure you can check whether you are getting the right answer or not. Okay, that will be financial. How about, do we have the financial, physical? Do we have any, this is financial. Okay, okay. I didn't have different. Okay, this is physical. Again, the blue color. Let's say we wanted to know every 2 weeks, what could be the physical progress. You notice that after 2 weeks, 14th of January, we are supposed to complete physically about 15%, 33% for the next 2 weeks, on the week number 4, 55, etc., etc. And how do we get this value? This is the one that we are going to generate. Okay. So actually, in your, later on, I will share with you some brief write-up what you need to do. Okay. So let's say you need, we are going to generate 2 data with regard to financial and then physical. Let's say column A. Column A, basically the date. We start the project on the 1st January, and then on the 14th, we are going to have our first update, progress, and then on the 4th week, etc., etc. These are the dates. And if we do this kind of exercise in folder number 2, which is, we are going to do that after this, then you are going to generate the value for financial according to this value. For instance, in the week number, in the day 14 January, you are going to spend, you are supposed to spend 19,000. Okay, that will be the value that we are going to get. Okay, then similarly for physical progress, You are going to see on the 14th of January, you are going to get this, the blue color, 15%, etc., etc. But about folder number 3, that will be the next exercise. But now we want to focus on, let's say, column number A and B. Okay, how do we get this value? From the Microsoft project plan that we already developed. Okay, now let's go back to our plan here. Okay, so let's, because this is too messy, let me delete, hide this column. WBS, I don't need that thing also. If you have a bigger screen, then you can put everything. Okay, I want to input 2 columns. Insert column, percent complete. So percent complete is basically the physical progress that we refer to. Okay, then second column, I insert actual cost. Even though I do not input actual cost, I just going to let the computer calculate the actual cost based on the work progress. But in reality, as I mentioned to you yesterday, in earned value, you should have a separate file that you send to the client and you yourself, because normally the file that you send to the client is the cost that you input is almost similar to the contract value. It's not the cost, because the cost have to be minus with the profit. Okay, let's assume that is the situation. Okay, so now this is what the value that we are going to generate. Okay, what could be the step? First thing first, let me click on Excel again. Okay, now we want to know the financial cash flow on 14th of January, 2 weeks after the project start. But the project has not started yet, just assume the target is like that, okay? So now let's click on our project again. Okay, what could be the way to do things? Okay, click on the project information. On the current date and status date, we are going to set the date according to the date of updated progress. We already set that 14 January. So click on that thing, 14 January on current date. Let's assume that is the target date. Status date, you want on 14 of January as well. This is your target date. You want the value to be generated based on this date. Why do we set this value here? Because we want to let the computer know that, let's say we already completed the first 2 weeks. What would be based on the logic inside this program? What could be the percent complete and money that we supposed to spend? Okay, click OK, and then here, update project here, this button here, you click, and then the date is already there, and then you click OK. You see, now the value already appear. 15% as percent complete. So the first 2 weeks of the work progress, supposedly, as per plan, this is what you are going to get. 50% of the physical progress, and the cost is 19,040. Okay, this cost is basically based on 50% of the work. In reality, you can put a realistic cost, but as I mentioned to you, there could be 2 scenarios, but for these purposes, we just want to stick to the cost is being generated based on the work which is completed. If the work is completed more, then the cost will be more. Okay, so I already have one value each for physical progress and financial progress. This value is the one that I input into my Excel. See, 19 for financial, and then 15 is here in blue color. So this is how the value is being generated, okay, based on my Microsoft project. So what shall I do with this file in order, because we are doing the folder management, we want to keep all this value intact so that later on we can come back and refer and see what could be our target in terms, what could be the changes. So what I need to do, or later on you need to do also, we need to save as. Click on plan, click save as, and then underscore, you put 14 January 2022. You see? Okay, put the name as the date, according to the date that you update. Still, we are working under folder number 2. And then you can click save. Later on, you will appreciate why do we do that. Okay. Okay. So now we already generate value for the first 2 weeks. Next, we want to generate value for the next 2 weeks after this. Okay, after 14th of January. So we continue with using the same file. Okay, and repeat the same process that I showed you before. What you need to do is change this date. The next 2 weeks, that will be 28 January. Then change this one to 28 January. Click OK. Then update project according to the date as well. So now you see things is changing already. 33% and 37,477, which is what I put in my Excel on the 28th January. That will be the value. Okay, so remember to save as under the date. Okay, under the 28th. Okay, you don't have to do this, but this is what we call folder management. Later on, you will appreciate. In real situation, people might not do something like this. Okay, now we already completed on the 4th week. Okay, let's go on 11th of February. Okay, let's update our project again. Project information. Since the calendar is already here. And then we are going to click on 11 February. Click on 11 February and click OK, and then update project. Okay, then you are going to see 55%. You notice that the tick, the right tick indicate that those activity already completed. That is example. 55, 51, 90. This is the third value that we are generating. And remember, the Microsoft project, don't forget to save as. Later on, you are going to duplicate what I'm doing in folder number 2. You are going to have a few file name as what I'm doing as well. That will be your submission. Okay, let me put 11 February. Okay, then click OK, save. All right, we're almost there. Few more. And then click again, generate 2 more weeks after 11 February. That will be on 25th of February, 25th of February, click OK. And then update project, click OK, that will be 79. Okay, check on our Excel, 25th, you see, these are similar value that we are getting. Okay, so don't forget to save as. Save as, again, 25th of February and click save. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now next 2 weeks. Okay, next 2 weeks. Okay, 25th, that will be 11 March. 11 March, we are almost close to our completion date, which is 18 March. Okay, and update project. Now we already completed 95% and spending most of the money there. And then click on Excel again, you see, the same value we are creating. So it couldn't go wrong. And then save as. Try save as. Okay, 11 March. Okay, and click save. Okay, so the last one. Okay, the last one would be 18 March because that is our end of the project. You don't have to do that because if you do that, you already know the percent complete should be equal to 100%, and the actual cost should be equivalent to the one that the project cost, which is 119. But we can try, okay, because what we are doing nothing actually. We just generate according to the time scale that we want. Let's say bi-weekly. You can do that weekly, etc., etc. Later on, I will show you the overall. Okay, 18. Okay, 18. Then click OK. And then update project. You see, 100%. It should be the same because what we are doing just trying to generate data as what we wish, because the client wish might be different. If the client wish according to whatever date, then this is how you do it. Okay, then I click save. Okay, now basically you already have all the values for the blue color for every 2 weeks. This is just what I want every 2 weeks. From that, basically, you can plot the S-curve, physical and financial. You are going to get the blue color graph. The red one is not yet because we are going to move into the folder number 3 after this. Okay, so that is how you do in order to what we call generate data. Okay, now actually, if you already understand how to use Microsoft Project, or a little bit expert, then basically you don't have to do this. I'm just showing there are many ways of doing things. Okay, now let's go into a quick way of generating financial S-curve. You can go into what we call report. For financial S-curve is okay because you can click on visual report. You can click on cash flow report, and you can change the unit into week, days, and month. I want to keep into weeks and click view. And the good thing is that Microsoft Project can draw S-curve in accordance to whatever the cumulative cost in accordance to what we want. Okay, it looks like very funny graph, just one bar. What is that? You need to click on the task usage in order to open up all the values. Here, Q1, you have to click the plus button there because that is Q1 reflect the first quarter, second quarter. That is the US way of defining the year. And click on the chart. This is what we call the S-curve. We have been trying to generate the S-curve, okay? And we can check. On week number 2, remember, 19,000. We are getting 19,000 all for all. It's almost close. On week number 4, 34,478, which is the same as what you get. So the value of all is already here. Okay, if for instance you do not want to use the graph from Microsoft Project, you just simply copy this value and then copy and paste into Microsoft Excel. You will get the same S-curve, the original S-curve for financial. So for financial, it's easy because there is a very specific button that you can press on Microsoft Project. Okay, where do you press? Again, you go to report, click on visual report, click on cash flow. You can change into whatever here. Make sure you change into whatever you need. Sometimes if the project is too small, it might not show into week, so better you use days. Okay, then you click view, then it will draw for you. That is the S-curve. And the value are there already, which is similar to what we have. But the one that I show you is more specific in terms of we can generate value according to the time scale that we want specifically. How about the percent complete, a physical value. That is the issue. Okay, that is the issue with Microsoft. Well, let me try whether we can generate those value or not. Okay, you don't have to do this, but just try to show you. Once you already have this file, the last 500%, let me try to, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works, okay. Where is that? Okay, now let's, where is the thing? Okay, I'm using the task usage menu here. I want to open up, try to open up the few, what we call information, detail style. I hide these two things. I just want to open up what we call percent complete, similar to what we have been doing. Where is that thing? Percent. We can click on cost first. Cost, show, cumulative cost, show. Okay, so those are the two items shown in visual report, similar to the one that we generate, and we shall see whether it is working or not. Cumulative percent complete, okay, show, and then percent complete. Where is that? Percent complete. Okay, let me move this thing. Okay, so these are the value that I want to show. And okay, should be, okay. And see, percent complete. Okay, percent complete is 100%. Let me change this time scale so that you can see whether it equivalent to what you want. The bottom tier equivalent to week. And then week number 1, 2, and click OK. All right. Now you see, by doing this method, using the task usage, when you already reach 100%, you set the target date on the last date. You notice the cumulative cost here is equivalent to the one that we generate, almost there, the same thing every week. So you can copy this value and from week 1 until week 11, and then you can plot the graph, S-curve. And similarly, for percent complete, cumulative percent, you notice that on second week, we already have this 15%, which is the same as what we did for the folder number 2, step by step. You see, without doing that, you can get all the cumulative cost value and the percent complete using the task usage method. Okay, that is for you to try, but this is just bonus. Okay, this is just bonus. You don't have to do this, but I'm just showing you all the information is there already, except that where to look for. Okay, okay. Now let's go back to the Gantt chart. I think did I save this thing already? Okay, let's click on folder number 2, plan. Okay, 18 March. That will be okay. I already saved this. Okay, I can save it again. Okay, that will be folder number 2. Okay, so after you generate value for each bi-weekly whatever thing, you already have all the data. Then basically you can draw the S-curve. Okay, but then the S-curve, the right S-curve have to be combined with the actual progress. So now I close this file because we already finished on folder number 2. Okay, folder number 2. Okay, where is that thing? Okay. Okay. So for plan, we already finished. We have all this list of file, and for folder number 3. By right, you should generate based on actual data, the folder based on 2 weekly, which have the same date, okay, as in folder number 2. But folder number 2 is based on target. Project have not started yet. But folder number 3 is based on the actual information. So we need to have the information from the actual site, work environment, then only we can update the project. Okay, so now let me open up in folder number 3. Now we are working on folder number 3. Open up. So the same original file that we have been working before. So in order to update a project in actual environment, the file must be saved as a baseline first. Save baseline. So in folder number 3, you must save this file as a baseline. Okay, how do you know what is baseline? Baseline is like you are taking a selfie. If you want to make comparison of yourself now and 10 years from now, for sure you need to take selfie of yourself. That's what we call baseline. So in a Microsoft project, baseline is basically we are going to capture the original information. Then only computer can compare between the original and the actual. So the comparison will basically generate what we call variance. Otherwise, those kind of information will not be generated because you do not log the information yet. So how to save the file into the baseline? Okay, before we go into that, so project, you can click on project information. There are a few ways that you can, we are going to click on set baseline here, but before we do that, because sometimes you do not know whether you already saved this project into baseline or not. So there are a few ways to look at. This is my way. You can click on statistic. You notice that current 77, whatever, the baseline is 0, 0, 0. So meaning to say your project is not being saved into the baseline yet. If you have already saved into baseline, the baseline will have the same value as 77 days, 7480. It will copy. It will copy and it will log the value. In fact, it is not the only value. Everything about the project will be logged in order to make comparison. So that is the baseline. One way to look at whether the file is being saved into baseline or not. Another way, okay, now this is what, okay, you can click on the task gun here. You can click on the tracking gun. Tracking gun is basically for updating. When you want to update, you will basically look at this thing. Okay, this is another view. Instead of looking at the normal gun, tracking gun, meaning to say the monitoring gun. In Microsoft project, in Primavera, they do not call monitoring project. They call it tracking. That is the term they use. Okay, let me make it click on view entire project so that you can see the whole thing. Okay. So now you can notice the Gantt chart have a percentage with only one bar for each activity. So when you see this thing, meaning to say the project, this file is not being saved into the baseline yet. Okay. If you are in the mode of tracking gun view. So now we are going into saving into baseline. Okay. So click here, well, under project set baseline, you can set baseline. And then baseline, there are so many baselines. So the first thing when you start a project, so you save on baseline, the top baseline. The rest of the baseline is meant for a revised version of the project. That will be later on. Okay. So you click on OK. You will notice what will happen to this bar chart when you already saved the file into baseline. Click OK. You see, now the bar or the Gantt chart basically consists of two bars. the bottom bar is, you move your cursor, it basically say baseline. Whereas the top bar is basically your, what we call your Gantt chart, which can move around according to the actual project updates. Okay, whereas the baseline will not be moving, it is being locked. That is the purpose of setting the baseline. Later on, you will see, okay, once we update the project. Okay, now we are ready to update the project. Okay, we are going to update the project. So how do we update a project? A little bit different from what we do in folder number 2. So we update project based, we basically do not update project because we know the project is in progress. We only update tasks. Tasks which basically being affected in maybe the first 2 weeks of the project. Let's say we want to update the first 2 weeks of the task. Only a few activity will be affected. So you don't have to update the whole things. Only a few activity. Okay, now let's do, okay, first thing first. Let me erase, hide this course and WBS similar to what I did before. I insert column, percent complete. I insert column, actual cost. Because that is the thing that we are going to compare or see as in our Excel. See, in our Excel, now you focus on yellow color. Now we are working on folder number 3. Let's say on the 1st January, which already passed, let's say the project really start. And for sure, when project already started, we do have information with regard to activity which already going on. So we want to update. When you update, then you are going to get this value. The actual being spent and then the actual progress, whether your project is running late or not. Okay. Okay. I am going to show you only for January 14. Only. This is just a sample. But in your exercise, you need to update a project until I'm giving you 2 more samples, 28 January and 11 February. I will give you information. Then you basically try to duplicate the same method that I'm using to update the first week of the activity. But on the 28th, there will be different set of activity which affected. If you do that, then you are going to get a value, certain value. So in your submission later on, you are going to do a little bit extra work, updating on 28 and 11 February. I'm not showing here. I'm just giving you information. Then let's see how whether you can do that or not. Okay, it is very easy. Okay. Okay, now we want to start updating. Okay, you notice that if we want to update the first 2 weeks of the project, so you look at this time scale. If you look at this time scale, from day number 1 until 14, it looks like activity survey and setting out should have started and should have completed logically. But you need to get real information. Let's assume that the activity being affected and earthwork zone A already started, but maybe they are in progress, not completed yet. And then the third activity will be survey and setting out, should have started, but still in progress by 14th of January. So only 3 activities are being affected. So we are going to update the information based on 3 activities because the other activity have not started. So we don't have to worry about that. That's why when you do the updating or tracking every day, so actually there are not many activity going to be progress. So it is not that difficult anyway. Okay. Now, how do we do that? Okay. First thing first, click on if the prompt is asking you, I do not want. No, I do not want to save yet because I'm still working on the input data. Okay, first thing first, you select first activity that you want to update. Okay, based on activity. Okay, then you click on the task menu, and mark on track. You click here. There is a menu called update task. Click on that. Then the dialog box will appear. So this is the information that you need to input only, okay, for each activity or task. Okay, let's assume survey and setting out zone A already started. For sure, you already know the date. So if you already know the date, just put the start date. What could be the start date? Let's assume that it starts on the same day as the project start, 1st January. Okay. Then let's assume this activity already completed. For sure, you already know the completed, the finish date for this activity. So put the finish date. The rest, you don't have to put anything. So what could be the finish date? So the target would be on the 9th of January, but let's put a little bit twist. Instead of completing on the 9th, let's assume that the first activity is running late by 2 days, going to be completed by 11 days, already completed on 11 January. So then we click OK. All right, we click OK. You see what happened? Now the percent complete is already shown to us. Actual cost is basically is being shown, generated as well. And you notice the blue color activity, the bar there is being shifted by 2 days in accordance to what we input. So the project now is running late by 2 days. Okay, that is how you update. Then the second, okay, the second updated is basically you click on earthwork zone A, okay, and then we need to update. How do we have to click on update task, okay, update task. Okay, this is the information. Let's say the activity is already started based on the same date as current date, okay. We can put on the current date, let's say 12th of January, okay. But the issue is that activity is still running. Let's say the activity is maybe it is 20%. Click OK. Okay, click OK. Sorry. All right, so that will be 20%. Okay. The second activity, which is partially completed. How about the third activity? Survey and setting out zone B. So click on update task. And then let's assume it start on the same day as current. Okay, should be okay. But then the progress is only 10%. Click OK. All right, so this is the value that we want, 11%. When we update based on the real information, we completed 11%, and the actual cost we spent is 12,200. Why? Because we are running late. Logically, we are running late. And this value, you see, you can input into Excel in the yellow box here. This is what I'm getting based on what I generated. So from the physical progress, you already know the project is running late. Okay. So that's how you do the updating process. And then the project. Okay, I forgot to update the project for 14. Okay, that should be the updated date. Okay, I can input those date first, but I do not update the project. I just update according to the what we call the tasks. Okay, so these are the information I'm getting. So now I can file save as in folder number 3, put 14 January 2022, and then I click on save. Okay, that will be example of week 14 January updating. Then another 2 more weeks, the project will be in progress. So certain activities should have completed, etc., etc. That I will give you information. I just want you to duplicate what I'm doing. So based on the same file here, which you already saved on 14 January, then you will start updating. Maybe the one which is going to be affected, for sure, activity, earthwork, and survey, and then survey zone B and earthwork zone B, and perhaps excavation or putting also will be affected. So I will give you information. Maybe survey zone A already completed, zone B already completed, and then earthwork zone A will start and then progress at certain percent. Excavation also start, progress at certain percent, and see how basically you do the updating. For sure, when you do that, and make sure when you start, before you start, you set the date first for the 28th of what we call 28th of January, okay? And then you update based on activity that I show you in the information, then you will get this value. So when you get this value, you copy into your Excel, put it here and then here. Then later on, you can try to what we call draw S-curve, okay? You can just basically select this thing. Okay, select the whole block here, and then insert into your, I think you have to insert or design. Choose whatever the Excel, then basically you will get the same chart as mine. Physical progress, and then financial progress. You can choose to include the value label, etc., whatever thing that you want, but this is what a typical S-curve normally we report to the client. Okay. Okay, before we go, so we are almost complete our work here. What else that I should show you? Okay, how about if I show you about the earned value? Okay, since the earned value normally when you update, you are working on folder number 3, then you will get the earned value. You do not get earned value from the target. So how do we do that? Let's take a look at the table, more table, and you click on earned value table, click, okay, you see all the things that we learned yesterday, all the PV, EV, AC, standard variance, CV, whatever thing is being mentioned here. Okay, since the project is running late, and of course you notice that SV and CV is basically negative. Okay, and then everything that we learned is being calculated here already, being shown, except that we can put a few more. How about SPV, SPI? SPI is there. You see the value below than 1 is basically running late for schedule. How about for CPI, CPI, okay, running late also. And then how about for TCPI? TCPI is also there. You see, 1.02, meaning to say, if it is a TCPI above 1, meaning to say about 2% that you have to put more effort. That is what it means, because you are running late in terms of schedule, and of course, we do not input the actual cost as what we learn. In reality, you can do that, but I didn't make any changes. I just want to show you all the earn value thing, whatever will be inside here. Okay. So now, okay, the last thing that I want to show you, let's go into our, maybe our entry, okay? Okay, this entry. The last thing that I want to show you, once you already have this chart in folder number 3, you can click on report. There's one button, we call it compare report. You can click on compare report. Then the computer will ask you what to compare, which file. For sure, you are going to compare based on the exact date with the plan, because you are working on the actual now. Okay, click on plan, click on the 14th of January. So, okay, now you are comparing based on the same date, plan versus actual. Click OK. Okay, now the computer is showing you in comparison the two files side by side. That's why I indicate the file by A as actual and then P as planned. Why? Because you never know. Maybe you want to take a look at the history. Your target plan for certain activity is supposed to be whatever value, and then how much you have progressed. Because when you make changes, automatically those things are gone, isn't it? That's why I save into the certain file name in order for us to trace back. And this is what we call folder management. Okay, file management. Okay, it's good that we have this kind of comparison. This kind of features basically was being developed way long time ago in Primavera. Only recent years they put into Microsoft project. So you see, Microsoft project is basically duplicating what is Primavera already have. But for me, if you can use Microsoft project, it's good enough. Okay, no need to use very complicated thing which basically you might not understand. Okay, then. All right, that is what I want to demonstrate for a brief. How many hours? Maybe more than 3 hours. In reality, if you want to know this, you have to go for courses maybe like 5 days. But I just compress everything in a short period of time. Okay, so any question from the floor? That is the end of our class today.
Saya ada soalan.
Okay.
So tadi kan dekat part yang completion setunjuk tu, so maksudnya kalau untuk actual dia memang ganggu juga yang untuk peratus completion tu. Sebab tu kita buat dua Microsoft punya copy tu lah. So saya tengok tadi se-update yang untuk actual cost tu dia berubah terus untuk ikut actual punya.
Ya. Kalau untuk actual tu maksudnya once we put a column mana tadi? Inilah. Ini kan. I input column complete ni kan. Then I input column actual cost. Jadi bila saya update satu aktiviti dia terus compute kan. Lepas tu bila saya update another activity lagi dia terus compute. Jadi itu betul lah tu. Itu cara dia lah. Jadi yang kita nak tu yang dekat atas yang row nombor 0 tu, itu yang kita panggil overall lah. Jadi kita tak payah tekan apa-apa button lagi dah. That's it. Dia dah automatically generate the values.
Lagi satu yang macam tadi yang carpenter tu, contohlah tadi contoh nanti kalau saya bagi untuk kita buat satu Microsoft project, contoh yang carpenter tu tak cukup tadi. Nanti kalau kita orang buat dalam Microsoft project, kalau contoh tak cukup, kita kena update lah, maksudnya tambahlah orang ke macam mana?
Ya, yang kamu punya, kamu just add the value so that they will know red indicator. Jadi sebenarnya that carpenter tu they just not show for us that bila kita input resources, when we input resources, then only we can see the resources could be conflict. Either could be manpower or machine, normally lah. Because material we do not material basically we do not do that actually untuk machine and man sajalah. Then we can only see. So as we mentioned, a good scheduling should basically optimize the usage of resources yang cantik lah, because we do not want the labor to be demotivated. For instance, ada kerja tak ada kerja. Jadi there are many things lah to be considered. Okay, in fact, once you develop a project scheduling, this could be called a first draft. Then you have to go back again and again. Oh, banyak kerja sampailah jadi satu benda yang almost okay lah. Itu maksudnya lah. Alright.
Okay, saya faham. Terima kasih.
So, which file need to be submitted?
Okay, now. Okay. So, you are going to email me, okay, the folder original, or the folder lah. Original consists of satu file saja. Then in the plan, you are going to submit the same thing as what I did, because what you are doing is basically duplicating what I'm telling you, because in the real face-to-face class, you are going to complete this thing within the similar as when I explain, you will do that thing on your table, so you will get the same answer. Then on actual, you are going to submit these two plus two more. Two more. Okay, let me show you what I'm going to share with you later on. Okay, I'm going to share with you. This is what we call Microsoft Project Exercise. I'm putting every data similar to the what we are doing. Meaning to say we start on 1st January, 8 to 7. So this is what we have been doing so far. Okay, and then you put into original file. And then these are the financial, cash flow, and physical that you are going to generate. You are going to put the values for your record later on. Okay, but then you see, for the actual, what we did on the first 14 is here. So this is what on the 14th of January. Okay, I only update based on 14. Then there is two more information here which I did not show because I just want you to try at home. Let's say we do have two more updates, 28 and 11. Based on this information, then you are going to, you see, the Excel, we already have the value for 14 of January. Okay, fine. Target and actual. But then for 28 and 11, we do not have the value yet because I didn't show anything. I just want you to work on that thing. So, meaning to say, in your file for actual, you are going to have two more file name with 28 January and then what is the date? In 11 of February. So, meaning to say, if you ask me, you need to send me all the folder for original, plan, and actual. Consists of your all work. Okay? Is it okay? But you know what? If you already understand, you can complete this thing within 1 or 2 hours only. Yeah, because you just copy paste into those things. Okay? All right. Any more questions?
How do we send to you, sir, via email?
Yeah, email, because I will here in the Microsoft write up here. So I think I put everything has to be emailed to rahim.master.kl@gmail.com by the same date as in your assignment. Okay. I think your assignment and this assignment, your assignment will be worth 30%, but this assignment was 10%. So due date is basically 13 February. I think our final exam will be on 19, if I'm not mistaken, fall on Saturday, isn't it? Saturday afternoon. Okay. Any more question about Microsoft project exercise?
Sir, kalau nak buat, if want to do project crashing, is it possible with the Microsoft project as well?
Project crashing, Microsoft project doesn't have the specific what we call button ke apa kan. The issue is that we have to look at the scheduling itself. We have to view the scheduling and go back to the concept. Okay, to the concept. When you want to do scheduling crashing, you can basically compress on the critical path. So critical path, for instance, katakanlah, itu dia tak ada a quick way of doing things. That is the issue.
Okay.
Jadi, for instance, katakanlah kita close comparison, you can go to the view. For instance, you can group according to critical. Okay, now you know critical. What are the items? You know that crashing, you can only, when you compress critical activity, then only you can see the changes. Jadi dia sebenarnya banyak nak kena view satu persatu, try and error. Then, and when you compress, katakanlah if you compress activity, certain activity, then you need to put note. Katakanlah you can click here, double click, you have to put notes. Notes, katakanlah, you mention activity form work has been fast tracked. Has been fast tracked by 2 days, whatever thing. Jadi you know that you already make changes from maybe 14 days the original and you cut into 10 days ke whatever. Macam itulah. Dia tak ada lah yang kita kata easy way of doing things. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right. Okay, so any more question about Microsoft project exercise? Okay.
Yes, saya ada.
Yeah, okay.
This is actually from Pasir question. Macam mana control excessive float time?
Control what?
Float time.
Control
Float time
access.
berlebihan. Macam mana control? Itu adalah salah satu Pasir soalan. So dia ada few options tapi saya tak faham macam mana control in MS project.
In MS project, excessive float time. Excessive float time. Mungkin isu dia ialah
Dia punya option saya bagi ya. So, dia punya option adalah applying the finish no later time constraint function. Ataupun limit dia punya early start time. Ataupun we add additional logical relationship time or applying the auto finish to start function.
Yang
So,
tadi apa tadi yang mula-mula tadi apa?
Applying the finish no later time constraint function.
Yang tu pun boleh jadi juga. Boleh jadi, because I didn't get into that. In Microsoft project pun kita can apply many constraint. Sebab yang tu pun jadi isu, itu pun dah jadi advanced topic dah. Okay, jadi kita tak cover lah into that. Okay. So don't worry, in our final exam, we don't have any question about Microsoft project anyway. We don't have any.
We can still control the float time, is it?
Yeah, we can. We can. Macam tadi lah saya cakap macam yang you sebut yang A tu macam sounds logic lah. When you lock the certain date. Jadi dia tak go beyond that lah. Okay. Alright. Okay, any more?
Kalau saya nak tanya pasal assignment boleh ke?
Boleh.
Yang tadi ada yang tanya pasal assignment yang project crushing tu kan, yang kita crush course dengan normal course tu. Kalau saya tengok kat dalam example, ada satu tu saya buat terus graph histogram punya graph. And then ada lagi satu tu by table. So better kita buat yang by table ke by yang histogram terus?
By table.
Table yang macam contoh dia kata it's not more than 6 day. Lepas tu kita ada ubah lah ikut total float dia apa benda semua. Sebab saya tengok ada dua cara kat situ.
Kalau misalnya nak senang buat histogram lah terus. Macam contoh macam Microsoft Project ni, dia just straightforward je dia punya histogram dia based on day. Day, how many quantity of unit tu, then dia ada dia punya bar chart tu, much easier lah untuk kita look at. Okay. Compare table tu sebenarnya, kita nak set dia punya aktiviti mana yang datang dulu. Kita nak susun gitu. Itu aja. Tapi kalau once we already have the bar chart, you can just draw the resource histogram bawah bar chart tersebut. You buat dia punya garis-garis ke bawah tu, then you draw the resource histogram based on duration versus quantity. Then you can see itu lebih cepat sikit.
Okay. Okay, saya dapat. Terima kasih.
Alright. Okay, during final exam nanti, okay, final exam, kita akan buat objective question.